breaking news that cannot be a surprise. But those 5 that were released into Qatar from Gitmo in exchange for Bowe Bergdahl, one might be back to the terror game, guys.
That's right, Brian. You're right about that. So one of the 5 was actually intercepted, apparently making telephone calls to the Taliban. Okay, so I'm just wondering this, because we profiled these 5 high-risk individuals the other day, these 5 terrorists. Is it the one who had close ties with Osama bin Laden?
Maybe.
Or would it be the one who had access to senior Taliban commanders and leaders of the Haqqani network?
Could be.
Or would it be the one who, on his record, had this: detainee would likely rejoin the Taliban?
That's a good choice.
Or other
You mean on the
terrorist
record?
groups. On record.
Right.
On record.
So we don't know which of the 5. All we know is that it was revealed in a top secret briefing up on Capitol Hill. One of the 5, we intercepted the call, although an earlier report was that one had returned to militant activities. Whatever they're doing, John Kirby, God bless him, the spokesperson for the Defense Department at the Pentagon, he said essentially that whatever this person is doing on the phone with the Taliban, the Pentagon's okay with it. Listen.
Let me cut at this from a couple of directions. First of all, we take all allegations of re-engagement very, very seriously. There's different ways of considering re-engagement. It doesn't necessarily mean return to the battlefield. It doesn't matter. We take it all seriously. We have a good security partnership with the government of Qatar. They have provided assurances, and I can tell you that we are comfortable at the Defense Department that we can mitigate any threat that could be posed by any one of these individuals in terms of terrorist activity. Again, I can't talk about the details. I can tell you we're very comfortable, though, that we can mitigate that threat.
I think that means we're tracking them, and if they try something stupid, we'll grab them just before they blow somebody up.
But let's just think about this. This has to be the least surprising thing if this is proven to be true.
Sure.
I mean, what do we expect them to do? They don't have an alternate vocation. They're still connected. We all know when they leave Gitmo, they're hailed as heroes. They are rock stars. And what are they going to do? Go back and try to finish the fight? The good news is America's leaving with a job undone, and they know exactly how to get back into power, and they're looked at as generals. These guys are generals in the Taliban armed forces,
Sure. That's right.
And we exchanged them for one defecting sergeant. And the meantime is that we're finding especially galling, and I know you guys do too, is the fact that people are looking at the Taliban and say, well, they're not a terror group. Really, they're not a terror group? Is that the same group that had somebody on the inside yesterday in the Kabul airport pretending to be an Afghan soldier and killed 3 American contractors yesterday? Could that be the non-terror group that it's okay to do deals with?
Right, and the people you're referring to, unfortunately, not willing to call them terrorists, are those in the White House. A spokesperson as of Wednesday, and we sat here, Brian, when he stumbled trying to discuss how this wasn't a terrorist. Meanwhile, the Taliban have actually claimed responsibility for an attack at the Kabul airport in which 3 American contractors were killed.
Yeah.
Okay? The identified Taliban fighter was actually wearing Afghan police uniform at the time. 3 American contractors dead, 1 Afghan man. So should we try this one more time with the administration? Not to mention, if you go back in December when 132 children were slaughtered at the hands of the Taliban, do you think we could call them terrorists now? Let's ask Josh Earnest.
Does the administration consider the Taliban a terrorist organization or not?
But it's important to draw a distinction between the Taliban and al-Qaeda. The Taliban has resorted to terror tactics, but those terror tactics have principally been focused on Afghanistan. Now, the reason that we're concerned about that is there obviously are a significant number of American personnel, including American military personnel in Afghanistan, that are in harm's way.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying that the Taliban engages in, quote, tactics akin to terrorism, but you don't actually consider them a terrorist group?
They have a different classification. They have a classification that does allow us to pursue financial sanctions against them that have succeeded in limiting their capability, that have been effective. And that is different than an organization like al-Qaeda that has a much broader global aspiration to carry out acts of violence and acts of terror against Americans and American interests all around the globe.
Well, for a second day in a row, the White House doubles down, and they say that the Taliban, not a terrorist outfit, they're simply armed insurgents. But then again, you got to figure out the White House, what are they thinking? It's always about politics. It's always about PR. Well, we couldn't really, go ahead and let go 5 top terrorists. But if they're simply armed insurgents and we get one of our guys by, that's their word salad to try to justify.
They did admit, though, Brian, Hey, Brian, they did admit that the Treasury Department lists them specifically designated global terrorists dating back to 2002. Okay, 2,000 Taliban fighters are on that list right there. But apparently here, if it walks like a duck and talks like a duck, apparently it's a squirrel.
Well, unfortunately, that's what I just wanted to emphasize that, if you want to go the legal end says they're a terror group. Yeah, and also they should not be treated like prisoners of war. They're a terrorist organization. They are not afforded that Geneva Convention. So that's the fact, and I'm not sure what Josh Earnest or his substitute said yesterday. But meanwhile, I know Heather Childers has been assembling in the 10 minutes in between shows more headlines for you guys. Is any of that correct?
She's standing right here in studio.
How did he know that?
He just knows a lot, all the way from Arizona.
I have a gift.
So smart, he does.